worst or the best? That's polar opposites, isn't it? That's really extreme. So some things that, are they the worst? Are they the best? Are they somewhere in between? What about troubles? When we think about troubles, we might think that's in the worst category. If I have something go wrong, that's really bad. But is it really bad? Psalmist said in Psalm 119:71, I learned when I was afflicted about your statutes. In other words, when he was having trouble, it's when he really turned to God. So what seemed worse, really best. Paul had something, he called it a thorn in his flesh. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 9, he had prayed 3 times for God to remove it. And God said, no. Why would God, who loved Paul, not take his thorn away? But God said, my grace is sufficient for you. So what Paul seemingly thought was the worst, God said, hey, this can be the best thing for you to learn grace. Paul and Silas were thrown into prison for doing absolutely nothing wrong. That would seem to be the worst, wouldn't it? But in that prison, there was an earthquake. And the jailer was going to kill himself because he thought everyone was going to get away and he was going to lose his life. And so Paul told him, he said, don't do yourself any harm, Acts chapter 16. And the man said, what do I need to do to be saved? And so Paul spoke the word of the Lord to him. That hour, he and all his household were baptized. And so what seemingly turned into the worst for Paul and Silas, for this jailer man, turned into the best. What about trials and troubles in your life? James chapter 1 verses 2 through 4 says that the various trials of our faith works patience. It gives us steadfastness. It gives us spiritual maturity. What about money? Is money the best or the worst? Well, you can do a lot of really good things with money. You can support your family. You can buy things that you need. You can buy things that you want. You can give to people that have needs. You can give to the Lord. And in some ways, money can be the absolute best. But what about the other side of the coin? It can be the worst. 1 Timothy 6:10, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. How many people are addicted to money? We don't often talk about addiction to money, but Ecclesiastes, Solomon, who had a lot of it, said, he who loves money will never have enough. What about people that the more money they get, the more stingy they get? And so what could be the best turns into the worst. Finally, what about death? Is death the best thing that could happen to you or the worst thing? You probably get very few people to agree that it's the best. When you think about death, it stirs the deepest of emotions and sadness in us when we lose people that we love. What does the Bible say? Psalm 119:15, precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. Something that's precious, something that's good. We see it really matters worst or best depending on what our spiritual status is. If we're not walking with God, it's the worst thing can happen. If we are walking for God, it's the best thing can happen. David lost a child in 2 Samuel chapter 12 and verse number 23. David said this, I can't bring my child back, but I can go to him. He let death turn into a motivation for him to live with God. Paul had a dilemma in Philippians chapter 1 and verse 23. He said to go and be with the Lord or to stay on the earth. And he said to go and be with the Lord. Death is far better. Best or worst? It depends. Troubles, money, death, best or the worst.